Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So this is my 10 minutes to bore you guys with my farm stuff. So about a year and a half ago, my husband and I moved across the country from Utah and bought 83 acres back home in the southern tier of New York and started a farm. And so we started this venture as newlyweds. We actually expedited our marriage plans to start this. We eloped, bought a house with as much land as we could, and started right away. And so we were shopping for sheep before we had internet. And so we call it Firefly Farms. It does have the most fireflies I've seen in the summer months, but also because fireflies are part of the nostalgia of home. And after moving home, moving around for work for me and the military for my husband, we were ready to fully embrace home. And so my husband and I are farmers. Outside of the occasional friend, family, or a neighbor helping hand, we happen to wrangle, and neither of us have farming background. So my husband is our full-time farmer. He's a jack of all trades with a range of experience, an Army veteran, a natural caretaker. And so he takes care of all the animals, all the labor, the day-to-day needs for the most part. I am more on the planning and the business end, research, development, financing, arranging our purchases or sales, and paperwork, lending a hand when needed, the occasional emergency. So how do we decide to start to get into farming is what everybody asks. And it started with an interest in having sheep one day, never thinking that we actually would, and went down a sheep research rabbit hole during COVID, read a book, some blogs, started watching YouTube, and it spiraled from there. And we went from, wouldn't it be nice if we had a few sheep one day, to, I think we can do this and not just sheep. And we grew an interest in changing our livelihood and working towards a more sustainable presence. So we knew we had a lot to learn and some decisions to make. And so we started defining what that dream was for us. And we knew that we wanted to do it as a business, that we wanted to produce goods and sell to the local community, but we knew we wanted to do it in a way that we were able to really enjoy it, that we could learn and grow into it as the land and we were able to support. And so first and foremost, we knew that we wanted to raise livestock, and that we were interested in adding crops or garden gradually, but not the main focus. And I definitely don't have a green thumb, so that'll be something we learn. But first, we're more for sustaining for ourselves and then being able to sell with our other products. But we started looking into practices. The one that we became very interested in is regenerative agriculture. And so the goal of regenerative agriculture is to build soil versus deplete it, keeping the carbon and the microbes in the soil. And it encourages diversity, and kind of the use of livestock to fertilize the land through grazing, using planned grazing to rotate the livestock based on the animals and the land's needs. So it's about improving conditions over time using an integrated system. And so this is kind of the pillar of how we manage the farm. And so going one step further is permaculture or permanent culture, which is kind of building an ecosystem with perennials or trees, things that thrive for 10 years, 20 years, or a lifetime. And so that's based on mimicking nature and kind of building a system that works with nature and optimizing what your conditions are and enhancing what's there. And so ultimately that'll be the goal. And we took this permaculture design course to figure out how we can start to integrate that into our system, but not there yet. And so what type of livestock do we want to raise? You already know we have a huge interest in sheep, but what else would make sense for us? We looked into each of these up to a point, depending on how much of a viable option they seem to be. And each of these obviously have different types, different breeds, different purposes, downfalls, opportunities. But we were looking for options that were easy to raise, to handle, to fence, to manage, that wouldn't be too costly to start, to feed, to care for, an option that would be timely, efficient, profitable, that have a few different purposes. And that would bring us joy. We want every animal we bring onto the farm to live happy and healthy lives for the time that they are here. And I'm sure we'll explore others, but these ones are the ones that we are starting with. And so we decided we definitely wanted to move forward with chickens. Chickens grow up really quickly. They have a lot of different purposes, from food to fertilizer. They eat bugs. They help you turn compost. Um, they eat scraps. They have for pure comedic relief, and they're not expensive to raise, house, or to feed. And so as far as management practices here, our chickens, along with anything else we really do, is kind of raised on pasture so that they have access to that forage and the feed and plenty of bugs, kind of how we believe they should. And so chickens need to be raised in a high heat environment until they grow feathers, and kind of mimicking the condition of a mother hen would create. And so that environment is a brooder. So we need brooder, we need a coop, we need a chicken tractor, which is a portable chicken shelter. So just kind of thinking through what we would need to be able to have these. And so right now we have 49 chickens. Most of them aren't laying yet. Currently, we get about a dozen eggs a day, and soon we will have much more. Each of them lay about an egg a day. And so we have a lot of different kinds of chickens, mostly standard size, but we also have 10 mini chickens, and they're called bantams, and they lay tiny eggs, which is cool. And so we have chickens with crazy feathered pom-poms on their head, and we have some with ridiculous feathered feet, and some that lay blue eggs and some green. We wanted to kind of create an existence that was also fun. And so our main venture, of course, is sheep. And so there are a lot of breeds of sheep, more than we ever realized, really. But this gave us the opportunity to kind of cater what we wanted to do based on our desires and what's available to us. So we knew we wanted to do a medium sized sheep, that we didn't want to manage any animals that had horns, that we didn't want to start with a breed that required us to dock their tails. And so one thing that we learned is that there are many breeds of sheep that don't actually have wool. They're called hair sheep. They have thick, dense hair, and it sheds out in the spring. And so for the ease of getting into sheep, we decided to start with hair sheep. So we decided on a breed called Katahdins, and they come in basically every natural color. And so we raise sheep mainly on pasture, moving them every 1 to 3 days. And moving sheep this frequently is better for the health of the animal and for your pastures. And because sheep will eat their first choice first, and then their second, and then their third. And so given access to the entire field, they will kill off their favorite area or the best forage. And because naturally they're very nomadic and would be moving constantly. So that's something that we decided to manage on our farm by moving them very frequently. And so this requires fencing. We use portable electric fencing to be able to do this. And my husband clears a path for fencing every time he moves the sheep. And this is definitely a feat. So in the winter months, we have them in a barn. Depending on when we have lambs, this also doubles as a maternity ward, which gives us close access to the mothers and the lambs. My favorite time of the year is also when they're in the barn. So now that you have an overview of our foundation and initial decisions, I figured I'd share some progress. And so we moved here in July 9th of 2021, and 10 days later, we brought home an Amish-made chicken coop and 13 layer chickens. And a week after that, we brought home a starter flock of 6 Katahdin hair sheep, bringing them home basically as soon as our fencing arrived. And the next month, we added 100 meat chickens, which required us to build a brooder and obtain a chicken tractor large enough to house 100 chickens. And that's, again, that a portable shelter for chickens, a chicken tractor. And so that gets moved daily on pasture for fresh grass, fresh bugs, and for them to be off of their own manure again. And so in fall, we added livestock guardian dogs. We have a pretty high predator load here. We have coyotes, bobcats, fox, fisher cats, owls, hawks. we're surrounded by woods, and so we feel a lot better having the dogs out there to care for the animals, and they take their job very seriously. They bark all night if there's a threat. They sleep during the day. They switch shifts off with each other. They keep the farm safe, and we trust them, and they're also just very nice to have around. So with the dogs, and we had to kind of contain them in a sense to keep them on the property. And so we added 10 acres of electric fencing around the house, and that's kind of 5-strand electric wire fence spaced specifically for sheep. I went out there with a little ruler and put little marks, and husband put clips and fenced out the entire thing, which was also a feat, but fun. And so over last winter, we converted our detached garage into a sheep shelter. We call it a barn, but it does surprise the occasional mailman when a sheep hops out of the garage, but it does work for us. And we received a 3-day-old cow for Christmas last year from our neighbor, which changed a lot of our plans. And so we did have to mix up her milk and bottle feed her twice a day at first, and it was a really fun experience. But we also realized very quickly that we are not set up for cows, and I think that might have made our decision that we don't want to move forward with having cows. So our neighbors came back and took her back. We can go see her whenever we want, but on their property. And we had 7 lambs born on the farm last March, starting with a single, and then twins, then triplets, and then another single. So they kind of eased us into it and then let us off the hook. But all of the lambs were healthy, and the moms did all the work, and we had no issues. So they did ease us into lambing nicely, hopefully not a false sense of security, because we're tripling that this winter. But yeah, so that quickly became our favorite part of farming, though, and definitely the most rewarding. This is our firstborn lamb. His name is Hercules, and he's on another farm now to be their herd sire. And so in the last couple months, we bought an old camper and converted it into a chicken coop so we could get a lot more chickens, which we did, and bought an old livestock trailer to make transporting sheep easier, and bought 5 more female sheep from the same farm we got our originals from. And we got a new ram, which is actually a registered ram, which put us on the registered Katahdin breeder list. And there's only 30 in New York, which we're really proud of. And so he just went in with the ladies December 1st to start our breeding season, and we'll be expecting somewhere around 20 lambs in May, which will be fun, and stay tuned. But yeah, so we'll continue to grow and to learn, but I do invite you to follow along if you would like. And if anybody ever wants to talk farming or different practices about livestock or food labeling even, please reach out, and I'm always game.